This video is about possessive nouns. I know that this topic can get really confusing, and so I really need you to give your best effort and your best focus so that you can understand this. You might need to go back several times to review it and to work through it and to give yourself some practice to make sure you understand it completely. Here we go. Remember that nouns are used to name a person, place, and thing. So we are talking about nouns today, and we're going to talk about possessive nouns. Possessive or possession means that it's showing ownership. So you probably have lots of possessions in your home. Those possessions are yours. You're the one that owns them. So possessive and possession, both of those mean ownership, showing ownership. Maybe you have a dog, then that would be your dog. You own the dog. To show possession when you're writing, you need to use an apostrophe. The noun being owned will also follow who it is that is doing the owning. So the very next word is going to show what that person is owning. So you need to make sure that those two things are together. The owner, the thing that is doing the owning, who it is, the very next word would be what they're owning. Let's look first at a singular noun. A singular noun, this is the first rule of possession. Singular just means one. So we're talking about one person, place, or thing. If it is one thing, a singular noun that we're talking about, we're going to add an apostrophe and then an S. So let's take this example. This is dog. Dog is going to be doing the owning. It is one dog that we are talking about. And so here's our dog, and this is his house. He owns the house. It is his possession, the dog's house. So how do we write that? We're going to do an apostrophe and then an S. And the reason why is because we are talking about one dog. It is the dog's house, the one dog. So this is the first rule. It's for singular nouns. You would add an apostrophe and an S, like we did right here. Apostrophe first, up in the sky, apostrophe, and then the S to the word dog. The next one is for a plural noun. The word plural means more than one. So it changes how we do the apostrophe when we are talking about more than one person, place, or thing that is doing the owning. So we will, in this case, add the apostrophe after the S. And let me tell you why we do that. So if we're talking about one dog before, how do we change from one dog to more than one dog? Well, what we do is in English, we just put an S on the end. Now we're talking about dogs, more than one. You can see them here. So these two dogs are going to share this house. They both own the house. So we have dogs with an S that we are talking about. So if the two dogs are going to own something, then it looks different. The two dogs that already has an S on it, then all we have to do is put the apostrophe after that S. In this case, when we look at it, if it already has an S, then that means the two dogs are owning the house. So dogs with an S, apostrophe at the end, meaning more than one. This is the plural rule of possession. And the last one we need to look at is different. Some people, like me, have a name that ends with an S. That doesn't mean that there's more than one of me just because my last name has an S on the end. So let's talk about what we do with apostrophes when there is someone's name that ends with an S. So for names that end in S, even if that name already has an S on the end as part of the word, just like my name already has an S, we're going to keep the same two rules that I already talked about. The rule for singular, meaning one, and the rule for plural, meaning more than one. So for singular, one owner, the apostrophe, and then the S. For more than one, we usually already have an S, so we're going to do an apostrophe after. But in this case, for names, we need to pay careful attention to who it is that we are talking about. Is it one, singular, or is it plural, more than one? So in this case, if we said Wood, this is like Miss Wood, who teaches science. It does not have an S on the end. Okay, we are talking about one person, only her, and if it is her dog, then we would say Miss Wood, that's her, it's Miss Wood's, apostrophe S, dog. Okay, in this case, my name ends with an S. So a lot of people want to, because there's already an S, we're just going to put an apostrophe and then leave this S off. However, there is one of me, and my name needs to be complete. I don't want to leave the S off of my name. So I put my full name, there's one of me, and I keep the singular rule in place, which means we need to do an apostrophe and then another S. So that's what I did down here. I did apostrophe and another S because we keep the same rule. That's what we did over here. Miss Wood, we put her full name and then apostrophe S. So here we put my full name, even though it ends in an S, my full name, apostrophe S. It's Mrs. Woods' dog. Okay? Now, in this case, this might be a little bit challenging. I'm going to blow your mind here. If all of my family, all the Woods family, we all had all of our dogs come to the party, then all of us, more than one, are owning the dogs that are coming to the party. So we would put our full name, and it would show more than one because it's all of us. So only in this case, since there is more than one of us, we would do the plural rule, which means the apostrophe after the S. So we have our full name with the S here, and then we would have the apostrophe in that case. Most of the time this will not occur, but I did want you to be aware of it. You might come back to this. There is an example at the end in the practice. Let's look though at some other names. If we're just talking about one person and they end in an S, let's look at this case. So here we have Travis. It ends in an S. We are talking about one Travis, so it follows the singular rule, apostrophe S. James, that's his name. We put his full name, even though it ends in an S, and then follow the singular rule, apostrophe S. Same thing with Chris. His name ends with S. We follow the singular rule because there's only one Chris, and we do apostrophe S. I know there are a lot of things on this slide, so we will practice and you will get the hang of it. Let's look at another word that's not a name. So the circus, in this case, we are talking about only one circus. So we put the word circus, and since it is only one, singular, we do an apostrophe and then an S. And the circus is owning the very next word, which is lion. It's the circus's lion belonging to the circus. It is one. It is singular, so we do apostrophe S. In this case, we're talking about all the circuses. We're talking about more than one. So it'd be the circuses, lions are awesome. And I just noticed that there's a mistake on the slide, so I just want to clarify this. Circus should have an ES on the end because we're talking about more than one. So it should say all the circuses, and then all the circuses with the apostrophe at the end because there's more than one. So sorry about that mistake. There's more than one. It is plural. Then we do the S and then the apostrophe. Okay, for possession here, just because a word has an S, it doesn't mean that that word is showing possession. So let's put an example here. The cats, oh look, there's an S. The cats are cute. But are the cats owning something? The cats are not owning something. If they were owning something, it would have to be the very next word right here. So are the cats owning are? No, they're not. The cats are not owning anything in this sentence. So just because there's an S does not mean that it is showing possession or ownership. Okay? So please check to make sure if there is possession. If there is no possession, if they're not owning anything, then there is absolutely no apostrophe needed. So let's review. If it is singular, then we have apostrophe S. So it's one dog owning the house, the very next word. So it is the dog, apostrophe S, the dog's house. If there is plural, more than one, two dogs, and they're owning the house together, then we do the S apostrophe. So dogs, because there are more than one, and then S with the apostrophe at the end. their house. The third rule we talked about were names ending in S. Check that it's a possessive word first. It does not get an apostrophe just because. It has to show ownership. So then, if it is showing ownership, decide if the word is singular or plural, if there's one or more than one, and then follow the appropriate rule. So if it's my car, there's only one of me. My name would be singular, even though it has an S, it's still singular, just me, Mrs. Woods, and then do apostrophe S, Mrs. Woods's car. But if it's all the Woods, all of us together, there's more than one of us, and it's all of our cars together, then just the apostrophe on the end. Use an apostrophe only if ownership is being shown, not just because you see an S on the end of a word. The dogs ran down the street. Just because there's an S does not mean there's ownership. Remember, they would have to own the very next word. So dogs are owning ran? No, absolutely not. In this case, Chris walked the dog. This is not showing ownership. Chris does not own walked. But you're saying, oh, well, he owns the dog. Yes, but it's not the exact word that comes immediately after. If it were showing ownership, it would say Chris's dog, and dog would be the very next word. But in this case, there's no ownership, there's no apostrophe, because there's not a word here that he is owning, the very next word. So there'd be no apostrophe here. So let's practice. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to look at this, and then I'll turn to the next slide. If you want to pause the video, I want you to tell me what it would be for the dog belonging to Sam. You can pause the video, decide what it would be, and then you can start the video and it will tell you the answer and explain it. The dog belonging to Sam would be Sam's dog. The owner in this case is Sam. It is only talking about one Sam. It is singular, so it is apostrophe S. The next one, the dogs belonging to Sam. In this case, there are more than one dog. We're talking about lots of dogs. However, the one doing the owning is Sam. They're Sam's dogs. Sam is still singular. We're only talking about one Sam. So it is Sam, apostrophe S, and then dogs. Dogs are not owning anything in this case, not that I've told you, so there's no apostrophe on the end of dogs. The dogs belonging to the kids. The dogs belonging to the kids would be the kids' dogs. Kids would be plural, more than one, so the apostrophe goes at the end, and then dogs. Number 4, the dog belonging to James. The dog belonging to James, it would be James's dog. James is his full name. We're only talking about one James, so it is singular. It would be apostrophe S. This next one's a little tricky. The dog belonging to all the James family members across the street. The dog belonging to all the, Amos's. I guess it should have said Amos on that last screen. Sorry about that. The dog belonging to all the Amos's across the street. It would be Amos's, because there's more than one of those, and just an apostrophe at the end because it is plural. We're talking about more than one people, more than one person here doing the owning of the dog. So there's more than one, it's plural. The S goes at the end. If we said the Amos's brought their dog, there is no possession because the Amos's are not owning brought, the very next word. So your task on your notes, you need to write one sentence for each of the 3 rules we discussed today. You need to make sure that you use your notes and you write your sentences correctly, showing possession. So you'll need one plural, one singular, and one with a name ending in S. Make sure to go back and watch the video again to make sure that you are doing it correctly.